I wanted to discuss Florida State a little bit because I'd be lying if I said I did not enjoy that debacle on Saturday night. The Georgia Bulldogs beat the Florida State Seminoles 63-3. And I know what the overall consensus is. I shouldn't say consensus. What the argument is from one side or the other. It's either, see, this shows you Florida State should have been in the playoff. And the other side says, don't care. This doesn't impact their, whether or not they should have been in the playoff. They had multiple players opt out of this game. I'm going to come out with from a different perspective. So I argued for weeks passionately. That ain't a playoff team. I argue even more passionately once Jordan Travis went down. I'm like, this offense is a water pistol. It's awful. It's unwatchable, and Michigan will throttle it. And they're objectively not one of the four best teams. And what I got a kick out of, Florida State thinks they got jobbed. Thinks they got screwed. Thinks the college football playoff committee's out to get them. They don't want to root for the little guy. Georgia, they say it's unprecedented. Florida State, it's never happened. A Power 5 undefeated conference champion has never not made the playoff. You know what else has never been done before? A team has been number one from start to finish. Enters the last weekend, championship weekend, number one, loses by a field goal to Nick Saban. Back-to-back national champions, Georgia Bulldogs. Yeah, you're out of the playoff. And you fall below Florida State for that matter. Georgia has a far better case when you look at strength of schedule, when you look at the freaking eye test, defending national champions, and their only loss was to Bama by a field goal. Oh, Georgia had a far better case. They were screwed than Florida State. But what was the difference in the reaction? What was the difference in the culture? Florida State spent the last month whining, moaning, complaining. They're like the petulant child who doesn't get their way, crosses their arms, sags their shoulders, and stomps out of the room. They acted like petulant children. Meanwhile, Georgia, who had just as good of a case, if not better, that they got screwed, said, well, this sucks. But Kirby Smart's like, yeah, it sucks. Let's go whip Florida State on Saturday in the Orange Bowl. Let's go show the playoff committee they were wrong. It's not going to change anything. But let's make the playoff committee rethink, dang, we should put Georgia in. It probably should have been. Florida State, you had legal action against the ACC. Governor Ron DeSantis threatened to sue the College Football Playoff Committee. Oh, they got it against us. The little guy, Florida State. And they acted like a little child. Meanwhile, Georgia, because Georgia has a winning culture, a winning program, a great coach, said, no, we're going to play this game. Now, Georgia had opt-outs. Georgia had transfers, but by and large, their important players played this game. Brock Bowers didn't play, but he's injured. He's going to be a high first-round pick. The key players played, and they went out and showed you why they very well should have been in the playoff. Interesting. I watched that game, and I'm like, that's hard to argue Florida State should have been at this point, huh? Well, they should have been in anyway. And that tells me this. Florida State being in the playoff had nothing to do, and I mean nothing to do, for those of you that think Florida State should have been in, at least admit it had nothing to do with them being one of the four best teams. At least admit that. This team barely survived the awful ACC. Awful ACC. I mean, USC, with their backup quarterback, with no Caleb Williams, throttled Louisville. Dominated them. Florida State, in that game, scored 16 points against Louisville. USC, on the other hand, scored 42. Florida State played the victim card. Wanted everybody to feel sorry for them. Georgia's like, you know what? This sucks, but guess what? We didn't take care of business. If we beat Bama, then we're in the playoff, obviously. Undefeated, beat Bama, won the toughest conference, or second toughest conference of the Pac-12 this year. We're in the playoff. They looked themselves in the mirror and said, okay, let's go show the playoff committee they were wrong. It's one thing to whine and moan and complain about it, but let's go show them they were wrong. It's a culture problem, which falls squarely upon the shoulders of the head coach of Florida State, a guy who I think is an excellent head coach, Mike Norvell. He played the victim card. He let his players play the victim card. He let the media play, some of the media play the victim card for them, and they got what they deserved. A 60-point throttling. Now so many people argue for Florida State to be in the playoff now, huh? And those who are, at least admit, guys, it had nothing to do with it being one of the four best teams. My favorite comment, I see a lot of funny stuff on social media. My favorite comment I saw all weekend long was a comment that said, it was of the final score. It said, Georgia wins 63-3. And this person commented, I wish I knew who it was, but this person commented, don't care, Seminoles still should have made the playoff, and I'm a Michigan fan. It's like, that's perfect. Yeah, of course, Michigan probably watched a lot. Like, dang it, I wish they would have let Florida State in. Dang it, I wish we could have played them instead of Bama. I played the video. I don't have it on here right now, but I played the video a month ago when it was announced that Alabama got in over Florida State, and it was the Michigan watch party, and you hear Reese Davis on ESPN. Who's the fourth team? The Alabama Crimson Tide make the college football playoff, and everybody in the room. You got to be kidding me. Think the reaction would have been like that if Florida State got in? No. And by the way, I heard about that great Florida State defense. Well, if nothing else, I know the offense can't score points to save their life, but you got to let the great defense in. Yes, they gave up a 60 burger to a team that Saban held to 24. Enjoyed every last second of it. Listen, this isn't a shot at the fans of Florida State. This isn't even a shot. It certainly is a shot at the playoff committee. This is not personal. But when you play the victim card, when you want everybody to feel sorry for you because you felt like you got dealt a bad hand. You know what, guys? Life happens. Sometimes you get dealt a bad hand. You saw Georgia responded to their bad hand, and Florida State responded to their bad hand, which was the same thing. And Georgia probably was dealt a worse hand because of a 3-point loss to Alabama. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.